Good evening, everyone. My name is Kalidas Cherulil. I'm the current Club Growth Director for District 4. Today, we have two very important topics related to club growth: club sponsors and club mentors. And to present these valuable topics, we have two stalwarts from District 4. Distinguished Toastmaster Aubrey Carrier would be presenting the club sponsors part. Aubrey is not a stranger for any of us. She has been with Toastmasters since 2011, and once when I asked her why she joined Toastmasters, she said she didn't really expect to learn anything. She just joined and thought she will leave it in a few months. And here she is, after all these years, after being a district director for District 4 a couple of years ago. Here she is as a club sponsor chair, getting ready to present the club sponsor program. Now, the second presenter today is an equally experienced individual, Joyce, Advanced Communicator Bronze, Advanced Leadership Bronze, and he is working on his DTM. He has been a club mentor. He is a club president for multiple clubs, and he has been also an area director. He has helped District 4 start new clubs. He has participated in kickoff meetings, demo meetings. He knows what it takes to get involved in the birth of a club and help it sustain. Today, Terry is going to present the Club Mentors Program. Now that you know who is going to present this program, let me also explain how we are going to play this out. As is the case with anything that we do at Toastmasters, this is a timed session. We lost about 3 to 4 minutes because of the technical glitch, but this is a 1-hour session, with Terry and Aubrey both taking about 15 to 20 minutes for presentations and about 10 minutes for the question and answer session. As Aubrey and Terry present their topics, I'm sure all of us will have questions to ask. I encourage all of you to use the chat window to type in your questions. When Aubrey is done with her session, I will take the control back from her so that she can see the chat window, and she will answer the questions in the sequence in which she got it. And once she is done with her session, she'll hand over the control to Terry, and we'll repeat the same procedure. Aubrey, now that the introduction part is over, I'll hand over the control to you. Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Kalidas, and thank you everyone for joining us on this webinar tonight. As we all know, there are many leadership positions and opportunities available in Toastmasters, and the two we are discussing tonight, sponsors and mentors, are rather unique because they both focus on brand new clubs. You're starting out helping a club that is starting from the very beginning, which is a really special experience, and you as the sponsor or mentor have the opportunity to make a really big and lasting impact. So what I'll be speaking about as sponsors tonight, a quick overview: what is a new club sponsor? What are the benefits of serving as a sponsor? Who can be a sponsor? How to get started? And the support team that's available to help sponsors. So first of all, what is a sponsor? In the general sense, Dictionary.com tells us that a sponsor is a person who vouches for or is responsible for a person or a thing. And I'm sure we're all familiar with sponsorship in the commercial sense, where companies are giving money or material goods in exchange for positive exposure. So that's a mutually beneficial relationship. But tonight we're talking about Toastmasters and new club sponsors. And a new club sponsor is someone who works with a Toastmasters club in formation and helps them to learn about the Toastmasters program, helps them establish their club culture, and to complete the charter process. So like I said, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. What's in it for the sponsor? Well, it's a leadership opportunity. New club sponsors have the chance to develop skills in leadership, leading a team, working with a team, project management as you are balancing the different components of the charter process, marketing and public relations because you'll be helping the new club establish their membership building strategies. And the most fun part is you get to watch a new club take shape from the very beginning, get on the ground floor, a true startup. And sponsors also earn credit towards Toastmasters educational goals. And I'll get back to those details in just a minute. So what's in it for the new club? The new club gets the support, guidance, and knowledge from an experienced Toastmaster. And of course, in every Toastmasters endeavor, there is the unwritten benefit of networking. You'll get to meet a lot of new people, connect with them, and learn from them. So back to the educational program. How does new club sponsorship fit in? And I'm talking about it now because I think there are a couple of misconceptions about it, and I want to address those up front. So for those of you who are working on the legacy program, sponsorship is one of the components of the Advanced Leader Silver Award, or ALS. In order to complete this award, there are a number of leadership requirements, and one of them is serve as club sponsor or club mentor or club coach. So pick one of three. In Pathways, there's no direct equivalent of the Advanced Leader Silver Award. However, to achieve Distinguished Toastmaster in Pathways, as some of you may be thinking about, there are a number of different leadership requirements, and club sponsorship can fulfill one of those. Now, here's a misconception I have noticed. Because traditionally sponsorship, coaching, and mentoring were grouped together in these pick one of three scenario, unfortunately I've seen that club sponsorship developed a reputation for being the easy way to get the leadership credit. You just find 20 people, you turn in some paperwork, and you're done. I mean, that's way faster and easier than being a coach or a mentor. Well, not so fast. I have two major issues with that mindset. First of all, the charter process is complicated and may take longer than you think, especially for someone who has the attitude that they want to take shortcuts. And spoiler warning, processing paperwork in and of itself is not a good recipe for a healthy and sustainable club. What a surprise. Effective sponsorship involves much more than paperwork, and in my opinion, it incorporates elements of both coaching and mentoring. So it's not a job for someone who's just looking to check a box. Back to that definition. The key word here, a person who vouches or is responsible for a person, a thing, or thing. Sponsors need to be prepared to take responsibility for helping to launch the new club. So before I get into specific duties, let's discuss who can be a sponsor. So each new club can have two sponsors that are officially recognized by Toastmasters International. Our best practice in District 4 is that the first sponsor comes from within the group that is forming the club. Usually that's the person who started the effort to form a club, or otherwise whoever is the main point person working with district representatives to establish the club. And this person may or may not have any past experience with Toastmasters. The second sponsor is an experienced Toastmaster from elsewhere in District 4 to provide guidance and support, and that could be any one of you on this call. So this creates a strong partnership where one person is bringing inside knowledge and understanding of the group, and one is bringing Toastmasters knowledge and experience. So together, you can work to build a club that fits the unique culture of the group and meets the educational standards and best practices of Toastmasters. Are there prerequisites to be a sponsor? There are a few. Sponsors should be experienced Toastmasters. Now, what do I mean by experienced? By that, I mean you have a thorough understanding of meeting structure and functionary roles. You know what a productive meeting looks like, and you're familiar with membership building strategies. You have a good understanding of the responsibilities of each club officer role and how they work together to lead the club. And you are willing to make the commitment to learn about the charter process. And the bottom line, if you are involved enough to be listening to me right now, you are probably qualified. So if you have this experience, you meet these qualities, how do you become a sponsor? There are two main ways that people can become a new club sponsor. And the first is to find and develop a new club lead. Do you know of a group that could benefit from Toastmasters? It could be a company or a nonprofit or a community organization that has a healthy population to draw from. Or maybe you have an idea for a club, but the group hasn't come together yet. Now, my favorite example of this is a club that was built by our immediate past district director, Noemi Gonzalez. She's a native Spanish speaker, and a few years ago, she was wondering, we have some great local bilingual clubs for people who speak Mandarin, Cantonese, and Japanese. There are so many Spanish speakers in the Bay Area. How come we don't have a Spanish bilingual club? She had that vision. She saw the specific audience that Toastmasters could serve. She developed it, she promoted it, she found a core group of people to start the club, and now Spanish bilingual Toastmasters is one of the district's most successful clubs. So it can start with something as simple as an idea. If you ever have an idea like that, whether or not you're in a position to take on being the sponsor, please reach out to the club growth team, growth@d4tm.org. I'll share that email address at the end to discuss with Kalidas and the club growth team. Your second option is to work with an existing lead. And the good news is District 4 is a pretty hot location for new club activity. So there are opportunities coming up on a consistent basis. And one thing to keep in mind, you are not alone in the process. There is a whole growth team who is here to support you as the club sponsor. So next steps and responsibilities. After you have found a new club lead or become attached to one, what happens next is you will work with the club extension chair, Joe Madley, to qualify the lead. And that means we will, Joe and you will evaluate the population that you're thinking of bringing the club to and make sure it is a healthy and populous enough group to sustain a Toastmasters club. After that, there's a kickoff meeting, which is a shortened version of a Toastmasters meeting that demonstrates the best practices and the functionary roles. If you've never participated in one, they're a lot of fun. If you're in San Francisco, I will work with you to set that up. If you're on the peninsula, Casey Wong, our kickoff chair south, will help you with that. After that, you will work with the club leaders to set up the follow-up meetings and help find volunteers to serve as guest functionaries for the first few meetings. You'll also start strong with the PR and membership building strategy. And simultaneously, so these last 3 bullet points all start to happen simultaneously. You'll also be guiding the club leaders through the charter paperwork. The charter paperwork, I mentioned earlier, it is not a quick checkbox process. There are 6 forms to fill out. There's the application to organize and the charter payment to establish a club. So in the case of workplace clubs, the company almost always covers this cost. In a community club, the cost is typically divided among the charter members. So good news, these first 2 steps can now be completed online, which makes it a more user-friendly experience for the club. After that, you need charter member applications, minimum 20 with associated dues payments. You also need an officer team that is committed and prepared to lead the club. You need the club officers to sign the club constitution and complete the addendum of standard club options. And that document basically states what kind of club is being formed. whether it's a closed club for employees of a certain workplace, if it's an open community club that anyone could join, if it's an advanced club with prerequisites, etc. Now, how long does that process take? Well, completing the paperwork can be complicated, and especially for people who are brand new to Toastmasters. It also requires close attention to detail. If there's just one signature missing, or you sent a list of 20 credit card numbers for payment and just one had a typo or is past its expiration date, the documents will be sent back to you to fix. And as a reminder, Toastmasters International serves the entire world. So, and processes paperwork in the order it's received. So you can imagine if you have to go through multiple rounds of correcting and submitting paperwork, the time can really add up. So again, the Club Growth team, I as the sponsor chair can help you. Joe Madley as the Club Extension chair can help you figure out these finer details of the charter process. But we do ask you as the club sponsor to take the lead in working with the club to monitor how things are going with the paperwork and to get it done. It is in the best interest of the club to complete the charter process as soon as possible. As we all know, how many members do we need to charter a club? The magic golden 20. Let's say you hold a really successful kickoff meeting and at the end you get 20 completed applications, and I'll be generous, let's say you even got a few more. Well, as we all know, life happens. If the charter process starts to take a long time, some of those original core members are going to drop out. They'll get other jobs, they'll move away, or otherwise they'll have life changes that prevent them from continuing. And if you start with fewer than 20 applications, even if it seems really close, like 17 or 18, the club will have to work that much harder to catch up. So back to the issue of, is sponsorship the easy route? Well, I have known clubs that took over a year to charter because it took them that long to get 20 valid and paid applications. So it's very important for the sponsor to be on top of 3 factors. Regularly checking in with the club leaders to see how the meetings are going. Regularly checking in to see how the paperwork is going, if the leaders need help completing it, and coordinating with Toastmasters International if needed. And supporting PR and membership building efforts, make sure that gets off to a really strong start and continues even after the charter process. Hopefully there will be 1 or 2 club mentors assigned soon, in which case you'd be working and coordinating with them on supporting factors like meeting quality, officer orientation, and membership building. However, as sponsor, you are the lead person monitoring the status of the charter paperwork and helping to move it along. So once the charter is complete, you get to enjoy the most fun part of planning the charter ceremony. We're Toastmasters. We love recognition. We love reasons to throw a party. And we do that with the club charter ceremony, where we present the club charter certificates to the members. We present their banner and lectern. And we have a special ceremony to recognize the achievement that they have accomplished in creating their own club. We invite members of the district, we invite senior leadership if it's a company club, we invite all the key people who have helped make that club a reality. We have the special ceremony, we make it as festive as we can, and we celebrate. And the best of all, the charter ceremony is a great opportunity to recruit new members and show them how much fun Toastmasters can be and what a great learning and development experience it is. So really make it as festive as you can. As I mentioned before, you are not alone as a club sponsor. There is a whole team here to support you. There's Kalidas as the Club Growth Director, Joe Madley as the Club Extension Chair, myself as the Club Sponsor Chair and Kickoff Chair for San Francisco, Casey Wong, the Kickoff Chair for the Peninsula, and of course the new clubs team at Toastmasters International who support us from headquarters in Inglewood, Colorado. So now that you've heard about being a sponsor, are you ready to get started? I mentioned before, Sponsorship is a mutually beneficial relationship. The club benefits from your expertise, and you benefit from seeing a club grow from a little seedling to a mighty oak tree with strong roots and strong branches. So next time you're ready to get started, please contact growth@g4tm.org, and we will be ready. I'm checking to see if I got any questions. I don't see any questions in the chat.
If you have any questions, please use the chat window to type in your questions, and we'll give it a couple of minutes.
All right. You are welcome, Kat. Thank you for being on the call. Well, hearing nothing right now, I will pass it along to Terry.
Thank you, Aubrey. Now I'll hand over the control. I've taken back the control from you, Aubrey. I'll hand it over to Terry in a minute. Right now, I'm making Terry the presenter. Terry, I just invited you to be the presenter. Please take control of it. That.
Very good. Can everybody hear me? I'm going to turn my camera on 1 second in the hopes you can see me. I won't keep it on throughout because I often find that takes up bandwidth. So just want to say hello to everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Aubrey. Very much enjoyed getting all that detail on being a club sponsor. There's certainly a lot of overlap with Club Mentor, and these are roles that work closely together. Let me fire it up. And hopefully you can all see my screen, and I'll proceed. I'll be talking about our Club Mentor program, what it is to be a Club Mentor in District 4, and what District 4 can do to help you be a Club Mentor, which collectively I'm calling the Club Mentor program, something new that we're working on this year to be a little more formal with the aids available to club mentorship. So topics for this presentation. First of all, target audience, explicitly, I suppose, Toastmasters who might want to be a club mentor. Very important part of our audience, as well as anyone involved in starting a new club. If, for instance, you're a club sponsor or thinking of sponsoring a club, it would be important to know how to work with your club mentor. So hopefully some of those folks are on the call as well. Then, of course, anyone who's just generally curious about how club mentorship works or just generally on the call to expand their knowledge of roles within clubs and within the district, very happy to have you on the call. What is a club mentor? We'll cover what are the benefits to everyone, both the club mentor and, of course, the clubs that are being started. What are the expectations of the club mentor? How does Pathways fit into this, and how does it present some challenges as we go through the transition years to Pathways, and in particular how that is likely to affect club mentors? What makes a great club mentor? What are the general characteristics that perhaps the district would be looking for? And what resources are available to club mentors, both now and that we are building this year as part of the Club Mentor program. Finally, how to become a club mentor, and then any questions that you may have, which, as Kalidas mentioned, please type into the chat window so that I will see them later. First of all, general definition of a mentor, and this actually comes from Toastmasters International from a publication called New Club Mentoring Matters. A mentor is a person who shares his or her knowledge and expertise with one or more people who have less experience. If we all take just a second to pause and think about people who've made a difference in our life, they may not have been formally called mentors, but we've had many mentors in our life. I can also think of some from popular culture. Jedi you will become. Hopefully, club mentor you will become. Now, what is a club mentor explicitly? An experienced Toastmaster who is assigned to a newly chartered club by the District 4 growth team headed by Kalidas Cherolil, who's our master of ceremonies tonight and has introduced us. Typically, the district, the best practice is to assign 2 different club mentors to the club. Very important that the club is well cross-pollinated with a good representation of different ways of doing things. So it's great if there are 2 mentors for a club. It also provides better coverage for attending meetings and such. And the club mentor helps assure the success of the new club. I'm not sure exactly what club this is a photo of, but they look successful. So I've put them in there for us all to aspire to bright success and happy smiles like those. The official term you would have as club mentor begins with the charter date and lasts for 6 months. But we want to make really clear that it's important to establish that relationship with the new club as early as you can, which means that if you've already established your willingness to serve as a club mentor when District 4 is getting new clubs started, and then you can participate in some of those demo meetings and kickoff meetings even before formally chartering, you'll be building those relationships that will be so important within the club. Benefits to everyone include, of course, that the new club learns from experienced Toastmasters. That's what the club mentorship is really primarily all about and the value that it brings to a new club. Of course, the entire district gains from a club being off to a strong start and becoming a strong and successful club, not just formally in terms of the way that the Distinguished Club Program goals roll up to measures of area, division, and district success, but really for all of us every time we get together at a Toastmasters Learning Institute or at the district conferences to learn from each other and hear how other clubs are doing things. Now, what about the club mentor, him or herself? What are the benefits to them? Of course, just straightforward, the reward of sharing your knowledge. It's a great feeling. You've got experience, you've got something to share. If you're an experienced Toastmaster, you've got skills that you know that people value. And it's a wonderful feeling being able to share. It's certainly the prime motivation for many teachers who work with kids or anyone taking classes, and we get to experience a bit of that even if that's not our profession when we become a club mentor. You as club mentor will also learn things, and that's especially true now at a time of transition. That is, as we adopt the Pathways program and as the legacy program starts to phase out. You'll learn from your partner in crime. Getting the new club started is the other club mentor, and you'll form a partnership where you'll be collaborating with each other and both bringing your experience to the table. And so certainly that's someone you'll learn from. Then what I'll call situational leadership, which is just to say, situation happens, and you've got to be agile and prepared for the unexpected, for questions you may not know the answers to. These are all parts of being a good leader, being adaptive to what's happening in a new club, and it's going to be a fluid and evolving situation. You'll do a Pathways deep dive. So if you, like me, are one of the people finishing the legacy program and come out of that tradition, which certainly would be true of a lot of experienced Toastmasters, and therefore people likely to take on the club mentorship role, you know, your new club will be starting on Pathways and will be doing Pathways, and you'll be immersed in it, and that's going to be a great broadening experience for you, making you more successful with people in your own clubs, as well as if you've already started on Pathways, of course, or when you get started on that, which hopefully is now or soon. Of course, just generally leadership development. You're a leader as a club mentor. And oh, by the way, as Aubrey mentioned, you receive a credit towards Distinguished Toastmaster. She spelled out very clearly the nuanced difference between the credit and requirements in the legacy program versus Pathways. But as you probably remember from Aubrey's slide, club mentorship is a way to fulfill the requirement for either program, to fulfill an important requirement in leadership for either program, Pathways or the legacy program. Of course, you get that credit upon successful completion of your club mentorship term. That'll be awarded to you when you apply for the relevant award. For instance, in the legacy program, when you file for your advanced leader silver, you're specifying where you did your club mentorship, and Toastmasters is able to cross-check that against the district's records and award you advanced leader silver, and along with it, acknowledge your club mentorship. Now, what are the expectations of a club mentor? I'm thinking of Yoda going, much. So much to do to get a new club started. But first of all, you can expect to attend. That is a ground floor contribution that you will make. You will attend meetings before chartering, if at all possible. Then you plan on attending every one of your club's meetings, your new club's meetings, the club you're mentoring, after it charters and until your mentoring term is complete. Now, that may cause some of you to take a deep gulp and think, there's just no way, and besides, I thought there were 2 mentors. Can't we alternate? And let me say that is really not the intention of having 2 mentors, is that one or the other is attending the meetings. You're there to give a broad range of experience to the new Toastmasters in the club. And if both mentors are there, that's going to be a more rich meeting. You've got more experienced people to take on roles in those early meetings. So plan on attending all of them. And then, yes, it's true that that's not always possible, and sometimes one or the other mentor is not able to attend. And hopefully the mentor partners, the 2 mentors for a club, can work out their schedule with each other so that they provide coverage of at least one mentor at each meeting. Again, ideally, you're both there. Every officer meeting, now this is where I would say one or the other club mentor is really not acceptable. Officer meetings are really foundational to the club, especially in this early stage, getting its procedures together, even identifying the officers in the early going. And it's vital that the club mentors plan on attending the officer meetings. It's really part of what you would do with the officer team is help them set up an officer meeting schedule in the first place. Then specific things to do. Steer the club towards best practices. That's broad and deep and beyond the scope of what we can cover to say what all those best practices are. But that's part of what you're bringing to the table is you know a lot about the Toastmaster best practices. Explain meeting roles, and you can do that various ways. You're demonstrating them by actually taking on those roles. You're also explaining them explicitly before and after the meeting. It's a good idea to take roles like general evaluator, where you can course correct for people who are doing roles for the first time, and I will say gently course correct in the spirit of Toastmasters. Generally help solve problems, which will crop up as the new club gets going. And set the club up for success with pathways and with the Distinguished Club program. Help establish procedures generally. So that's not just meeting rules, but also things like the emails that the club sends to prospective members or the email templates they send to a new member upon joining. The sign-up sheet. There's so many things that we need routine procedures for. And helping the club know how to go about things is a vital contribution. Train officers. Keep in mind that a lot of times clubs aren't starting in sync with the Toastmaster trainings. Who is going to get those officers trained? You will have the lead on that. And you'll provide interim training to officers and, of course, make sure that they attend formal club officer training when that becomes available in wintertime, December, January, February, and in the summertime, June through August. Finally, observe and supervise. Keep an eye on what's going on and recognize if things are going off the rails. Keep District 4 informed. Keep club growth informed about how things are going in the new club, and know when to reach out for help if things seem to be going off the rails or not functioning very well within the new club. Now, I want to zero in for a couple minutes on mentorship and pathways explicitly. We touched on it a little bit, but here is how I frame the challenge. New clubs are on the new curriculum. And we all will be from here on out, and that is pathways. And it's common that many mentors right now don't have deep experience yet, personal experience, hands-on experience with pathways. They may not have started pathways. Hopefully they've chosen a path, but many are, such as myself, are still finishing the legacy program, perhaps getting to a certain level before that program disappears. How to rise to the challenge. Some do's and don'ts here. Do make the shift. Don't make the paradigm shift. Take the leap. Get your mind around pathways, even if it's not your primary education program right now. Learn to speak fluent pathways. So you're speaking in terms of paths and levels and projects. And get going on it yourself. That's really the best way to follow along. Yeah, you may be a beginner at pathways, but you're bringing your rich experience as a Toastmaster to the table. And of course, you can start on pathways even as you work on your legacy program objectives. Some things not to do. Don't equate everything that you're teaching to the terminology from competent communicator, competent leader. So for instance, don't say, now if you were doing that vocal variety speech that we used to do, then you would get this clearly, but you know, that is really off-putting to a group of people who Pathways is their curriculum, and they pick up those skills as they progress through Pathways. So you know, move on, and learn the terminology, and you'll be a better mentor for it. Now, I want to talk a bit about the resources we're putting in place to help you. I am in a position that Kalidas asked me to take on, which is the Club Mentor Chair. And I'm here to help club mentors. I'll try to mentor club mentors and bring us all together. And I've observed that upon taking this position, there's not a lot formalized at this point as to how to go about either being a club mentor chair for the district or explicitly about how to be a good club mentor within District 4. And that's what we'd like to change this year. First, by creating a sense of community among the current mentors. And that community can also include recent mentors who might want to help us out. I am the Club Mentor Chair, so that's part of the program. I'm a former club mentor, and in fact, I was the mentor of the Spanish bilingual Toastmasters Club that Aubrey mentioned during the previous presentation, and I'm here to help. And finally, we're building a body of resources to help you. Online tools you can get to, documents, of course, spreadsheets, lightweight tools to make running a club easy. You can use those things or not use those things, but hopefully some of these resources will be valuable to you. Now, relatively quickly, to leave time for questions, what are the characteristics of a great mentor? What will make you a great mentor? First thing is commitment. If you're an experienced Toastmaster and you're committed to being a great club mentor, that's really number one, is bring that passion that you have to it. Everybody will feel that. Responsiveness. This is something that I often talk to people about how to make our lives in a collaborative community like Toastmasters easier. Answer emails. Doesn't mean people will always answer your emails, but set a good example. Be responsive so that people know what you're thinking, what you're doing, and you help things flow smoothly. Be available. That, of course, we talked about attendance. And be patient. It's a new club starting out with their own hopes and ideas for how things should go. Be flexible and learn from your new club's thoughts about what they'd like to be as a club. And don't abandon your own curiosity. For instance, embracing the Pathways program. In other words, don't assume you know everything there is to know about Toastmasters. Stay curious about the deep world that is the Toastmasters learning experience, and be open to new things that you can learn. Now, in terms of the experience that you would have, typically you will have been a club officer, ideally in multiple roles, so you really understand how a club functions. You would have other Toastmaster achievements that will be specific to kind of your Toastmasters resume. Those may be in Pathways or not in Pathways. And useful but not critical if you've been a district officer at some level in the past. And if you're DTM or nearing it, great. But you don't have to have those specific achievements to be a great mentor or to be considered for mentorship by District 4. Finally, what are the resources we're hoping to make available to club mentors? We already have started a club mentor online library, a Google Doc library, that every club mentor gets access to. It's just starting out, but we're building it this year with documents and templates. We've already got a frequently asked questions document started, and I'd love the collaboration of all the club mentors this year in helping us flesh this and other documents out. I've started a document, resources for club mentors. That document will only grow and provide pointers to other resources. There's a detailed training handout that I got from Jay, one of our current club mentors. He pointed it out to me that many pages and a good read, New Club Mentoring Matters PDF that is available from Toastmasters International or from our document library. This presentation will go into the library as well. I've started a distribution list, a Google group for current D4TM mentors, and you'll be added to that list when you're assigned to mentorship. We just built this and sent out the invites over the weekend. If you've received one of those invites, please accept and join the group. I'll probably use direct add going forward to make sure that new club mentors can become part of the community. And if any of that is confusing, here is my email address, terry.toastmaster@gmail.com, and you can request to join the group. Coming soon, we'll have templates like treasurer tracking, a lightweight club management spreadsheet that is used by multiple successful clubs, best practices templates, and also a guide for the next person to hold my role, the club mentor chair. Finally, how to join. Reach out to growth@d4tm.org so that Kalidas knows that you're interested. Here's a nice list for that email: your club affiliation, your time in Toastmasters, relevant experience, including the officer roles that you've held, other leadership activities you've done in Toastmasters, and also what are your restrictions? Where do you need to be? What are your time restrictions? What are your geographical restrictions, so that you can be matched to a club that you can work well with and that'll fit into your schedule. So for instance, you have to be an evening meeting in the southern part of the district, or I prefer a lunchtime club in the financial district. Please indicate if you have some flexibility with that. But of course, that can all be worked out when you're considered. Ever after then, the district growth team has you on their possible mentor list, and we'll take the initiative to reach out to you. Finally, let me just say, when a club starts out, you'll never have people more enthusiastic, more ready to learn than right when that club starts. So harness the enthusiasm of the newbies, give them what they want, which is knowledge about Toastmasters, share what you've got, and we'll all be richer for it. That concludes my presentation. So Kalidas, go ahead and take it back, and I'll look for the chat window.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Now, all of you, all we need to do is bring in your energy, enthusiasm, and experience, and join the club growth team. Before we leave, do we have any questions for Terry? If you do, please type it into the chat window. Terry, can you see the chat window now?
Yes, and I see that Micah asked for my email address again, and I'll also supply, it's growth@d4tm.org. That's for reaching Kalidas to let him know that you're interested in mentorship. If there's any other email addresses that went by that somebody wants to ping us about here, but we will make the recording of the presentation available too. Thanks for the question, Micah, and thank you, Kat.
Do we have any more questions for Terry? If you do, please feel free to type it into the chat window. While we are waiting for others to type in the questions into the chat window, let me remind you all that this recording will be available within the next few days on our district website, which is d4tm.org. If you go to d4tm.org, under the Events tab, there's an option called Webinars, and you should be seeing this under the past webinars. So if you want to just revisit that, or if you want to share this webinar with someone, please find it there and let others know. If you want to reach Terry or Aubrey with any questions, and if you don't remember or if you don't know the email IDs for these individuals, please send an email to growth@b4tm.org, and I'll assist you reach Aubrey or Terry.
This is Elliot. Am I unmuted?
I can hear you, Elliot.
Okay. Hi, Terry. I just have a comment, and not to beat a horse to death, but the mentor, they really need to know pathways in many ways for now. In the old days, it didn't. You just needed to make sure. But a lot of the new members, after their icebreaker and so forth, they get lost and they don't know to do the other assignments thereafter. So the mentor who has to follow the club at least for 6 months, hopefully within those 6 months they're going to be leveling up from 1 and 2. But I'm finding out a lot of veteran Toastmasters have not really done pathways, and I'm just fearful that the survival of the club mostly depend on the pathways more so than our tradition of having them do those roles, take functionaries, get involved, do speeches.
Yes, thanks for the comment. You know that I'm in wholehearted agreement with that, and tried to make that a big focus in the presentation as well, where we're completely on the same page, and I appreciate you reinforcing the message. This new club, it's Toastmasters is Pathways now, and those of us whose experience predates Pathways, that's great. That's useful experience, and we have more to learn from Pathways, but we have to keep in mind that new clubs are learning new terminology, not the terminology that we had. And we've got to speak pathways. Just consider it a language that you need a crash course in, and the best way to do that is get started, learn about it. D4TM has such great resources about pathways, explaining it in detail, that it's become a worldwide resource for Toastmasters to come to learn about pathways. So there's really, a lot has been done in the last year or so to get the district spun up on pathways, and things are changing for the better with regard to the availability of that knowledge. I have a question from Stephen regarding when a club mentor would start discussing the scheduling for officer meetings, and when that is best to happen. A good question, and as I think about it, I believe probably best would be as soon as the officer team becomes solid. As soon as it's known who those people are, would be a good time to work with the club sponsor, work with the president, work with the other mentor, and propose probably a monthly meeting would be best for formal officer meetings, even if the club settles into a more spread out cadence later on. For that first 6 months, a monthly meeting would be great. There's no hard and fast rule about that I'm aware of, but having the officers think about, do we meet before a meeting, after our meeting, or on a different day, different location. But please do encourage the officers to create a formal environment for their meeting, not a go to the bar and have a chat. They want to be able to make decisions in a structured way, whether it's Robert's rules or just similarly formal voting processes to serve the club well. Get them to take officer meetings seriously. Another question from Stephen: are members of unchartered clubs given access to pathways before the club charters? That's a good question. To my knowledge, nobody has access to pathways explicitly until they're a member, but I'll pass that one through to Kalidas and Aubrey if anybody knows differently.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
Aubrey.
I can
you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Aubrey, please go ahead.
Okay, great. I am really glad Stephen brought that up because the answer is no. Before they are chartered, they do not have access to the full Pathways program. Now, everybody can access the Icebreaker project online, so they have access to that, but that's it. And that's another reason why it's critical for clubs to charter as quickly as possible, because we can't just hand them an extra manual anymore or a PDF file of the projects. They really need that full Pathways experience.
Yeah, and we see a follow-up question from Jay. Again, Jay provided me with a nice resource about club mentoring, so thanks for that, Jay. And he's saying that he has a club that has just chartered, and at the last meeting they said they couldn't get onto Pathways. Clearly, if the club has chartered, that means Toastmasters International has their money, and everybody should, probably everybody does, have access to Pathways, and then the issue would be one of knowledge about how to get there, how to make it happen. So consider a hands-on session, perhaps in the half hour before the next meeting, to get everybody around a computer, walk one person through doing the sign up for Pathways. And I bet that'll break through that logjam. And I'll also open the floor to any of our other district leaders who may have thoughts on that.
Thank you, Terry. Jay, I believe you're talking about Intuitive here. 4th Street Court, right? So what I would suggest is, since, as Terry said earlier, most of us are still working on our legacy systems somewhere down the line, or we just completed our legacy system, and we are still trying to get in grips with Pathways. Best thing would for us as mentors would be to reach out to the program quality director, Kitsy, and she can certainly help. Either she may have documents for you, which she has prepared, or trainings or video recordings, or if she can find someone within that area who actually has a lot more experience in Pathways, who can coordinate with you and maybe visit the club for a short meeting and help you get the club on board with Pathways. Do we have any more questions for Terry or Aubrey about club sponsor? Now let's open it up across both the topics. Any questions you thought you wanted to ask but missed for club sponsorship, or any questions you have right now for Terry, please feel free to tap it into the chat window right now. Looks like we don't have any more questions. Again, thank you all for attending this webinar. And as I mentioned earlier, this webinar will be recorded, will be downloaded and uploaded into our d4tm.org website under the events webcast link. So please find it. Even if you missed half of it or part of it, it's going to be there. And please refer it to your friends and anyone else who is interested. Thank you all, and wish you all have a very good evening.
Thanks, everybody.